Welcome to Thursday of IMTS. Today we've covered some big picture social media stuff the previous day, yesterday. We talked about LinkedIn the day before that. Today we're going to talk about YouTube. Similar to the previous conversations that we had, we looked at some big picture social media issues. We're going to do the same here. I'm going to present a little bit of an agenda here so you know what's in store and what's coming down the pike. We're going to present the big picture items. Try to get the gears thinking here in your brain engaged. So some general perceptions about YouTube and video, how people learn information. We're going to step back from YouTube and we're going to talk about how people understand video. We're going to look at some history and demographics. Within that, we're going to see who owns what and why that's important. We're going to talk about who, what, when, where, and why. And then we're going to talk about setting it up. So we're going to give you the whole backstory first. And when we're setting it up, I want you to keep in mind it's a moving, bouncing target with YouTube and with most video and most social media. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the technical changes that have happened, some of the tools and apps that are out there for mobile technology, and we're going to talk about SEO, which is search engine optimization. And at the end, we'll take each of these top level 3 blue categories and try to wrap them all into a bow and put it together for you. So let's start here. How do different generations communicate with each other? The baby boomers like to talk on the phone. They're comfortable reading an email. They don't necessarily like to text, and they just don't really get social media. Gen Xers, they're really comfortable with an email. They like email, they get texting. Their communication is a little bit different in how they understand and talk to each other. It's different and distinct from baby boomers. It's the next generation Y group that's a problem for most baby boomers because they think differently. They grew up on their cell phones texting underneath the desk. All I did was pass notes back and forth. They texted. So they can multitask in different ways. They're hardwired differently. The next gen, which is on the Gen Y's turn the baby boomers on their heads. The next group is the Gen Z group. That's the kids coming up right now. This group is literally hardwired differently in their heads, even more so than the Gen Y people. They think differently. They've got connections and wiring in their brains because they've been using technology since day one. Because of that, baby boomers, Gen Xers, you don't even have the connections. Your brain's not wired the same way as these kids. That's why they're going to understand technology quicker than previous generations. So that's why when how was school today and your daughter says, read my blog. They're comfortable with that. A lot of people who are baby boomers and Gen X say, I don't want to write a blog. What do I write a blog about? Write a blog about specific things. How was school today? They're comfortable with that. That's how they communicate. That's how they learn. Second piece of technology that's changed, and again, this is across those generations, is I learned how to use a typewriter in college. Laptops replaced typewriters. And today, tablets and mobile computing are replacing the laptop. That's overlaid with something else. Web 2.0 and Web 1.0. Now, Web 2.0 happened a while ago. Web 1.0 was looking at a billboard. You look at the billboard, you read the billboard, you don't interact with it. Web 2.0 are websites where people are engaging, forums, where you can post a question. This is where social media comes in. Facebook, I can ask a question, the company can respond. Twitter, the same way. LinkedIn, the same way. YouTube, the same way. So these things are all happening together. So you've got hardware changing and software and cloud computing all evolving at the same time, and they're feeding off of each other in development. So that's the backstory. Now we're going to talk about how people learn things. There's this thing called NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. And NLP is really simple. It's based upon how the eye connects to the brain. So we all know that the optic nerve goes right into the brain. And we know that there's a left side and a right side to the brain, and there's triggers there. We know that the right side of the brain is creative. That's where the creative process comes from. So what NLP does, and a number of very famous rich people have talked about this and done motivational speech, but there's some physics and psychology to it. If you look up and to the right, you're making stuff up. We already know this as part of conversations. When you're talking to somebody, if you look up to the right, that's like pressing an accelerator down to the right side of your brain. So when you're talking to somebody and or your kid says to you, hey, how's your school project? Did you finish it? And they're like, sure. Which way are they looking? So, but you know all this. Intuitively you know this. You don't need to study to do this. This is the stuff you learn. So how do you know when somebody's not telling you the truth? There's different types of learners, and this is really the previous slide was really anecdotal. It's kind of fun to know that. There's different populations of the human race that learn differently. There's visual learners. So when somebody says, I don't see what you're talking about, I don't see it, they're visual. Another person may say, that doesn't ring a bell for me. So if somebody's saying, I don't see it, and you're saying, well, it doesn't ring a bell for you, you're talking two different languages. Oh, and the final one are kinesthetics. I don't have a gut feel for that. Now, as a percentage of population, based upon numerous studies, we know that about 40 to 80% of the population of the world are visual learners. Approximately 15 to 30% are auditory learners. They remember things through audio. And then a smaller portion are kinesthetic learners, the gut feel people, and they're 5 to 10%. So if we look at all the studies, because they're pretty spread out, and we say that there's a nice middle ground, the bulk of them are saying about 80% of the people in the world are visual learners. That's how they get information. That's how they retain information. Another 15% are auditory. So between the two of these groups, and approximately 5% for the purpose of our conversation are kinesthetic, so it's a very small percentage. And for those of us that are kinesthetic, it's really difficult to talk to all of you people. Like we really have to, it's like talking to a different language. So the important thing here is if we look at these, radio, when it comes out, is beautiful because I don't have to read, I can listen to things. That's why radio becomes popular. It's about 15% of the population. It's better than reading. When television comes out, that picks up both visual and auditory groups. That's how they grab information. That's 95% of the population of the world. That's why video's great. Now, you've been to the doctor at some point and you've had this conversation. Which is better, one or two, with the eye stuff? I wear glasses, so I get to do this every once in a while. So I want you to take a look at two things. Let's pretend that you're going to hang blinds in your house. So which is your choice? Do you want to read the manual, one, or do you want to watch the YouTube video, two? Most people don't want to read the manual. They want to watch somebody do it, stop it, pause it, go back and say, how do I do this? And they're doing it on an iPad. And the beautiful thing about this, if you look down here in the corner, look, 165,000 people have watched this. So which YouTube video am I going to watch? Am I going to watch the one with 10 views? Or am I going to watch the one with 165,000 views? Because this one's probably better. And I can rate it. So people can say, this is a better video. How do you get your video there? It's a one or two conversation. So a little bit of history of YouTube, because history is important here in the context of how this platform got here, how it evolved, and where it's going. So supposedly YouTube got invented sometime. It was founded in February 2005. The idea came back in 2000. It happened at a party at a house. There's the story, and there's a myth to the story too, over a conversation about a website called Hot or Not and what you could do with video. I'll leave that go. Okay, the first video was posted in April of 2005. They went into beta in May of 2005. They had 30,000 views a day. By December of 2005, they went live on the site, and in January of 2006, they had 25 million videos a day are watched. It grew kind of quick. Now, it got purchased in October of '06. It got purchased for $1.65 billion. That's not bad for a year from drinking at a party and coming up with an idea. It actually brought together a bunch of technologies that existed, 3 different technologies that were off the shelf that they put together. Different story. More importantly, they were purchased by Google. Google owns YouTube. That's key to know as we talk about SEO. So some more information. Where are we at right now? Market share numbers on YouTube. So this is the dateline on this is 2011. Everything that I'm about to show you has grown logarithmically. So 490 million unique users worldwide per month, 92 billion with a B, page views each month, 2.9 billion hours a month are spent, 325,000 years are spent online watching YouTube every month. There's more than 400 tweets per minute containing a YouTube link. This is where the social media starts to tie together with Twitter. The average user, bell curve, average user, 15 to 25 minutes a day on the site. I want you to keep in mind at the beginning of this, we talked about the Gen Y people. Keep thinking about them for how they're using this. There's more video content uploaded to YouTube in a 60-day period than the 3 network television stations produced in 60 years. That's a lot of content. Oh yeah, it's free. Well, it's free for now. There's a cost. You got to do it. You got to put it up there. You got to produce it. So this is my son pointed this out to me. This is Husky Starcraft. Apparently, and I don't know this, he's between 15, 16, and 19 years old. So he created this website for a video game called StarCraft. And he's got 78 million views of his channel. And if you look right below there, he's got 232 million video views. Could you imagine as a company if you had 232 million views of your video? He produces good content, but look what else he's done. He's changed it. You can give it a thumbs up and you can like it. He's also monetized it, so there's advertising on there, so you can run ads on there. And again, if you can imagine, here's the other thing he's done. He finally decided to make a website. He's gotten all this traction, now he's going to make a website. This is how this generation's thinking. That's these kids. Remember I said they're hardwired differently? They're thinking differently. They know stuff about this. They're the people that are going to be doing the research for new products as soon as they get out of college. Now, you saw that Criterion flash across there. Criterion Machine Works is one of the exhibitors here. Bob Wallstrom, who's the president of Criterion, told me this story. He said, you know, he decided, we talked, and he said his daughter teaches 3rd grade, and he's got a grandson in 3rd grade. So he said, I'd like to have my grandson take a class on programming, to learn how to write apps, because he seems interested in that. I don't know if that's such a good idea, Dad. So she went and asked her 3rd grade class. And in the 3rd grade class, have any of you kids written an app? One little boy raised his hand and said, oh yeah, I have an app. What'd you write? I wrote a fart app. And you know, all the kids chuckle, and that's hilarious. Well, what do you do with it? Well, I'm not sure, but it's fun and it makes different sounds. But I have $54,000 in the bank for college, my mom says. Well, needless to say, the grandson got the class. The key is, and this isn't this boy's app. This is actually a commercial app because I couldn't find his app. But I think you see my point. These kids are embracing this technology. Gen Y has embraced this technology. So these are younger kids. But the guys and women out in the job market coming out of college who are Gen Ys think like this. Baby boomers aren't. So let's go. Now we're going to jump to some of the mechanics of signing up. When you want to, and this is the note-taking part, if you will. So you go into YouTube and you're going to set up an account. Remember, it's owned by Google. So at some point in there, Google is going to ask you to set up a G+ account. And then they're going to ask you to set up a Gmail account to tie it to. So we're going to do this in reverse order. The first thing I recommend doing is set up a Gmail account. Do that first and foremost. Then they're going to start asking you for more information. They're going to ask you to tie it to your mobile number. because they're tracking your information. That's what they want. They want to know how to market to you as a person. They're assuming you're a person. Remember, this is evolving, this is changing. I'm going to have you skip that step right now. Skip the mobile setup. Skip the G Plus for now. Link the Gmail to a master account. So pick a company name, set up a Gmail account that's a master company name account. You'll be able to appoint administrators later, but we'll start here. Then we're going to go back and we're going to create a filter in Gmail. And I can't go through that process here, but there's a filter function. So everything that comes from YouTube as far as a notification goes into a folder. So that think of Kanban systems, think of Lean. So everything goes into a color-coded file. Start filing in your Gmail account for this piece of social media so the stuff that comes in you can segment and review as the comments post. Set up the filter. Create your filing system at the beginning. Then go create the company Gmail account. It's tied to this. Add the filter to the Gmail there. Make your personal account, if you have a Gmail account, an admin on those accounts. That way you've got the master one and the backup so you can manage it. This is all about the organization, because when you start moving into social media, and generally this is one of the first things I do when we build stuff for a client, before we do Twitter, before we do anything, there's a Gmail account with filters set up, because in the process of setting up social media, you're going to end up with 180 to 250 emails in the first 24 hours, if you're doing it right. You got to start filing right at the beginning, because otherwise it's a mess. And you're segmenting, so you're not tying. If you tie this to an existing account, you can certainly do this and set up an email account within your company to do this, because Google is so dominant in this sector, in search and everything else, it's just easier to do it here. You can migrate it later, you can do forward pushes on the email, but keep this in mind that this is the process after having done a bunch of them that I kind of follow. Today, I'm saying that today. I wrote this last week, I finalized this. This is a moving target. Doing anything about social media is like me creating a map to San Francisco in 1849 at the height of the gold rush. The streets are changing, and they're changing daily. So back to setup. First thing you're going to want to do is go into your settings once you do have the account set up, and you're going to go to the sharing area. And in sharing, you're going to tie it into your Twitter and other stuff. This is relatively new. It looked different before. The Facebook account that this is tied to, if you have a Facebook page as a company, it's not going to tie to it yet. This is going to hook to your personal Facebook account, so don't link to that yet. And I haven't looked at it today, so it could have changed. Maybe they allow you to do the Facebook page admin. That's probably coming. Next thing you're going to want to hop over to is My Channel. You click My Channel, and then when you land there, go to Channel Settings on the main page. And then click on this tab where it says Tabs. Uncheck this box. Always take subscribed users to the feed tab. You want to take subscribed users to a video that's going to default play at the beginning. So whatever your featured video, and you can change that around, there's a video there. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Now, because the Twitter functionality on these new accounts is relatively new, they're pushing a lot of tweets out. So all of these things, tweet, share with social networks. When I like a video, comment a video, or favorite a video. Because this function's new, you really want to be careful if you've just set up your Twitter account, because all of a sudden, if you're liking a video from, as an example, David Modern makes fixturing stuff. So he may put a video up that features a Mazak or a Makino or a Haas where his stuff is on it and says, hey, we just posted this video on your piece of equipment. If he does that, that tweet is going to go out on and feature them. Twitter has an alert to where if you're doing too much activity too soon into a new account, they shut you down. So you want to be careful what you're doing in your settings here. You may want to turn them off, but then you got to remember to come back in here and retouch everything. So once you do your YouTube channel, come back and fix your settings. Make sure that they're tweaked right where you want them. This is how you can have the channel display. So you can have it display. I prefer this. So I got a main video at the top versus just a whole listing of stuff versus a bunch of little squares. I can feature the video and change out the featured video. And that's how this looks. So it's right here, and it auto plays as soon as you land at the page, as opposed to somebody having to click on it. And think about how your preferences are. This is how I do it, but I've looked at how preferences are. When you're researching that how to hang blinds, you want to watch a few minutes of it. It should just start playing when you land on the page and start to load. You shouldn't have to click. People don't like to wait. Next, we're going to look over here because you can link to your other social media, your website, everything else. And here's how that editing works. You click the edit button right on the right-hand side where we were, and that's going to give you this pop-up of information. And you can add a title and a link. Keep your branding consistent. Whereas I've got RPM here for Rapid Production Marketing, Facebook, GooglePlus. It's tying that together. Whatever branding you've selected, and we talked about branding in the social media session yesterday and how to select a brand name consistently across all platforms. This is where that comes into play. So that's step one yesterday. This is the step two and the nuts and bolts of this one. You can add more links to where you're at. So you add your other websites. Consistency in naming is important. Other settings. You can have playlists. You can segment your information into playlists. If you're a machine shop and I do aerospace and defense stuff, if I do medical device components, if I do automotive components, then I may want to have automotive, aerodef, medical device, and put those videos together so they're grouped and you can feature them. There's multiple other changes happening. And when I say there's multiple other changes happening, I'm talking about right now. There's settings that you're going to see in YouTube that are turned on today, fields that you fill in today. An hour from now, you come back and they're gone. And tomorrow, they're back and enhanced, and there's 3 more fields of information that you can fill in. This platform is changing rapidly. Fortunately, YouTube is giving you information. They're saying you can do, here's the new feature sets we've given you. And that's back in the backside sitting over on the right. Pay attention to that. It's a moving target. They're giving you more tools to help you sell stuff. You can use them. So check back in these settings often. It's almost to the point where you have to form a habit to come back weekly and just review what settings are there. And I will guarantee you, I always find a new setting and go, what's that? Changes are going to happen. Please keep that in mind, especially on this platform. It's a moving target, as we talked about. Keep that in mind. Now, what's SEO? Remember we talked about Google. So there's this big algorithm on how search happens, and it's all about keywords. And this is the part where companies that have had a lot of videos up, product videos, application videos, this is where the ball gets dropped, because it's real easy to drop. When we look at search engine optimization, it's really about keywords. And so how do you search for things? Well, if you're looking for shoes, you don't just type in shoes. You're typing more specific information in the search engine. You're saying, I want men's shoes. Or more importantly, you're saying, I want red Nike men's running shoes. Because you know that's going to deliver better results than just men's shoes. You want to type in something specific. I'm drilling 304 stainless on a Fidal 4020 machine with a 10,000 RPM spindle. Who does that? That's the kind of thing that you're going to type in. So remember this, make a note of it, think about how you type things into search and why that's going to be important on how you describe your videos, and are they keyworded? So we're going to hold that for a moment. We're going to go to video capture. I need you to keep that in the back of your mind. You can capture video. You can have a professional camera like the ones that you see here at IMTS, but you can also do it on a mobile phone. The mobile technology, 8 megapixel cameras now, with video. You can grab images pretty quickly. This is the iPhone camera. It'll record. But there's also an app for that. There's all kinds of apps for video. I'll show you a couple of them. These are all video apps. They do different functions. So if you want to broadcast live, you sign up for another social media site through this app, and you can use Livestream or Ustream. These are just two of them. You can not only broadcast live, but that video from that live broadcast will auto feed to YouTube and load there. So you don't have any upload time. It'll push it right to YouTube from your live broadcast. So if you're recording something that you want to show at a live event, like here, you can push it to YouTube and it'll be saved. You can also record and then post. And here's all the tools that are out there to record it and push it out not live. And there's some different editing functions within each one of these apps, and there's a ton of apps. And we're going to jump into editing. There's some editing features now in YouTube, but you can also, there's Cinemagram, sorry. And you can edit here even on your iPhone. Now the big question is, YouTube, yesterday the 12th, Apple made an introduction for the new iPhone 5. YouTube as an app is no longer part of that. Candidly, I haven't read enough and learned enough about how that's all going to funnel out, because we've been here at IMTS. But be aware that that's some things you're going to want to pay attention to, because they're both moving away from each other. Because Google and Apple compete. Remember, the Android phone is Google's product as well. These guys are competing in the mobile market at a different level. So how they work together in conjunction, they're frenemies as opposed to enemies. They're friendly enemies, but they're getting more on the enemy side of late. Okay, so you can edit. So what do you video? We're going to come back to the edit again. Video should be about 1 minute, 20 seconds to 3 minutes, especially for a technical video. That's on average. That's about how much time people want to spend paying attention to the video. They don't want to watch a half-an-hour product demonstration where the middle of your stuff is 15 minutes and 31 seconds in. Keep it short. Do it in blurbs. Use the bullet points in your catalog. If you have a product catalog, if you have a capabilities brochure, take those things that are bullet points and make a video of them. It's short, it's sweet. Each bullet point that you've already established, you know what to video. You're talking about it. Look at applications. We're at IMTS. There's a ton of applications that happen. If you've solved something that's unique and you want to talk about it, put it out there and tell the world. Show the application solutions. New products, new services, new capabilities, all of that fits in, but that's pretty common knowledge. It's the other stuff that you want to grab. So again, we're back to Criterion, who I mentioned earlier. So a DBL 202 boring head has been on the market for 65 years, but they took a video of it, they did a blog on it. That posts out, it gets picked up by another blog, remember, independent blogger, who happens to have 35,000 people on that forum site that they read. 2 weeks, there's a $35,000 order on that from that video. That's okay. It got out there, people watched it, it was shared. It's still a valid technology. They made some enhancement. This is an enhancement they made. You don't know, even if it's an old product that's existed for a long time, that somebody that just got out of college doing research knows about it. They don't. They've never seen the product. You may have been in IMTS for 20 years coming to this show in Chicago, but there's a bunch of people who are new here who have never seen those old products. So, trade shows like IMTS are also good places to take video. So this is an old Metal Facts magazine. Look back when we talk about old products. This is a press release cover story from 1994, my first IMTS. When I look at this press release, here's the stuff that we can break out. So each one of these things that I'm circling is a feature. So in this one press release that's 4 paragraphs, I have 4 videos I could make. Short, sweet, to the point. These are my features, these are my bullet points. Each one of them can be turned into a video. I can do them all in one day, and I can post them over time and schedule them for release. When's the optimum time to release them? When your audience is watching. That's another discussion. We talked about it yesterday, and there's some video on that too. Remember, social media is about sharing. It's not about promoting, it's about sharing and engaging. You can cross-market it, as we talked about. If your products are featuring somebody else's information or their products in conjunction with yours, share it with them. Hey, your product's in my video. And we're going to come back, circle back to that at the very end. So here's how you edit in YouTube. These are new functions as well. You can edit the audio track. You can create transitions between things. And you can add text to video. Again, this is all built in, so you can do all this right there. You don't need movie editing software. It's nice to have, but you can do it right within YouTube. The important thing, and I said we'd come back to this, is that you've got to fill in all the fields. Remember I said there's one big mistake that everybody who does video makes, that's very common. The people that you're typing in search, there's a robot, there's an algorithm that looks for keywords to find your information. The robots are blind. They can't watch your video. They're deaf. They're not hearing what you're saying in the video. And with that many uploads, they're not searching through that. Well, they are, but that's a different story. We'll cover that at the end. But they do read really well. They can read the written word. So when you do your video, here's a video that I have. There's the description. It's not just bullet points. It has key takeaways. It has the highlights. In fact, I can take what's called a tag cloud of that, and what's the biggest things that's mentioned in there? This is what the robots are seeing. So this, I don't know if you're familiar with the tag cloud, but you could take a set of text and say, how often is the word used? How much does it appear? And the biggest words appear. So I do social media marketing, but this happens to be on fixturing, machine, CNC. You can see production. This is what's popping out. You can analyze what you're writing and see this for every YouTube video. It's called Tag Crowd. You copy the text you're going to put in here, you look at it and see what's most popular. If you're writing things that say, we're the best company in the world, we do tremendous customer service, we believe in our customers, and our customers are always right, what you haven't done, well, you said what everybody else says, but what you haven't done is you haven't said what your industry is, what you do, what you're good at, and what keywords are going to be searched. Be specific. Because this all has to do with SEO and how you get found. This is how they're going to search for that. So let's start to put some of these disparate pieces together. According to Global Spec, they have a booth here. They're saying that here's how people get information. This is their sources. They're doing it through search. Search engines, 78%. Remember these guys? Remember the Gen Y? As a decision maker for a product, executive management isn't doing search. They may be doing search, but it's typically that kid coming out of college. He's the grunt, she's the grunt. That's the person who's going to go out and have to search for the product solution. They go to the search engine. Remember the 1-2? What's their choice? Are they going to read the manual, or are they going to watch the video? They're going to watch the video. The video is going to give them the first bit of information. And how are they going to do it? They're probably going to do it on their phone or their tablet, because it's probably going to have to fit in their workday so they can take this home with them. They can do this research from there. Their work has to stay at work. They can find it from here. And the younger generation is all doing it from tablets. This is a big concern for companies. Granted, this is another topic, but this is a big concern for companies. If we're supplying this stuff, who's touching it at home? That's scary to some people. But kids are watching videos. That's how it starts. Okay, let's look at some mobile numbers. Apple's market share in 2010 was 83% on tablets. Globally, they're projected, they finished out around 73% in 2011. The Android was about 17.3%. The market has grown 261% from 2010 to 2011. I don't have the 2012 numbers out because we're not finished yet. Worldwide media tablet sales to end users is supposed to be around 63 million units. Remember, this is the scale of how people access information. They're doing it from mobile. So you got to think about how it's going to be viewed on mobile. As you're recording that, how close or how far are you away? How does it look on your phone? This is why it's a good idea to play with your phone to record these videos, because that's how people are going to consume your information. It's great to have hey, if I had a red camera, I'd be happy. But if I'm going to view it on here, maybe I should do it on here. Just food for thought. That's why, as a small company, this is in your pocket. You can start with that. Tablet sales are forecast to reach 326 million units by 2015. And Apple's expected to have 50% of that market share through that period. But it's changing all the time. That's the old data. This came out September 7th for $159, so hey, maybe it's Kindle. It's still a tablet. That's what's hot. It's the mobile technology and that's how the information gets accessed. The other thing to think about, we talked about hanging blinds at the beginning, so you're going to watch the video and pause it. You're not doing it on a computer. You're bringing your cell phone or your tablet to where you're working and doing that work and watching the video. So think about that can be mobile and brought to where the location is. So what does your product or service do that somebody can bring to where their workplace is and utilize that video that way? Think in those terms. So you've read the disclaimers that say no forward-looking statements. These are forward-looking statements at this point. And we've got to acknowledge the elephant in the room, because there's a big elephant in the room, and it undercuts everything else. And this isn't a political opinion. This is just what's happening. Autodrill, a company in our industry, posted some stuff and said, hey, there's a non-customer sent us a letter to complain about their trademark name being used in a YouTube video. So let's pretend that was a candy bar in there. That logo's in there, it's a trademark logo. And they want to pull it down. Well, that's a problem. And that's a problem because if you recall several months ago where a lot of websites said we're going to be blocked, and it was a fight against SOPA and PIPA, and a lot of these big companies protested against that. What's passed is CISPA. And there's some things within CISPA that the lobbying groups from the Motion Picture Association have come in and said, this is trademarked information. That hurts smaller companies, because if you're filming a video, and this is obviously the worst, this is the argument that's being used, if there's a candy bar in the video sitting there, if there's music in the background playing in the shop while you're doing the video, and you're not licensed on that, it'll get pulled down. So when I talked about robots before not being able to see or hear, actually things like Pandora can hear the music and identify the music. If you've got music playing in the background and you're not licensed for it, your video could be pulled down. Worse yet, your whole channel could get a takedown notice. So be aware of what's in the background of the image and that you have permission on this, because the takedown notices come like this from really obscure places. Okay, so the key takeaways: fill in all the fields. If there's a blank field in there and you don't have it filled in after you upload your video, the robots can't read in this case. Fill them in, create detailed information. Change is going to be constant in this. It's going to be constantly being enhanced. Remember, always in the back of your mind, to be aware of SEO. The underlying theme to everything is where you appear in search engines, how you get found to the people that are doing the research for your product or service. Oh, another big thing to remember is, have you ever been in a meeting and had one of those light bulb moments? Or you sat in the meeting and there's a group of people there and all of a sudden somebody says, wow. And typically I'm talking about sales meetings or engineering meetings. I didn't know our product did that, and they work there. Anytime that happens, anytime you're sitting in a meeting and it's like, wow, that's impressive. I could have used that for this other customer. I could have told this guy. I didn't know we did that. That's a video moment. Whatever that is that your own staff doesn't know about, that somebody just got excited about within your company internally, how do we video that and tell more people? Because if it's important there, it's important everywhere else. Oh, the aha moment. It's going to take about 90 days once you start using this to internalize it. Anything that becomes a habit. So if you check your email every morning, walking out to open your mailbox and look in it, that's a habit. It takes 90 days to form a habit. But the first 30 days are the hardest. So remember I said you've got to check the email, you've got to check the comments, you've got to check back on a weekly basis. Until that becomes a habit for who's ever in charge of this, you're going to forget about it, you're going to leave it, and all of a sudden the customer's going to ask you a question about a video and say, wait a second, how does that work? And because you haven't checked that inbox, because you forgot about it, and there's tons of companies here, and I'm not going to name names, who haven't been into their YouTube channel in a year and a half. They haven't responded to comments. So what's happening when you don't respond to the questions or comments on the YouTube video that you took the time to put up? That Gen Y kid is coming in, seeing it, reading, they don't respond, they don't answer the questions here. What kind of service am I going to get? They're off the list. Looks like a cool product, they don't respond. I'm not dealing with them. Once you're in the space, you got to check it. The first 90 days is the most critical. Oh, so I want to thank Leanne Orange. If you don't know Leanne, she's Special Projects here, and she's on Twitter, so please follow her on Twitter because she does a fantastic job of pulling all this stuff together. I don't know how she does it, so I want to thank Leanne. And I want to thank these folks because I've used some of their images, but I didn't ask them, so I want to at least give them credit. They designed these two cool images in the rainbow. And IMTS. So if you have any questions for me, now is the time to ask some questions.
Are there other platforms that we need to be considering besides YouTube, or is that the best place to start, really, and then get out from there?
There are a number of other platforms. As a matter of fact, there's some other platforms that are preferred by the gaming community, the tech gamer kids, because the upload times are faster and the resolution in HD is better. We can, if somebody wants that, certainly contact me and we can talk about it. And I often recommend that you have channel properties in both. You have identities in multiple channels based upon where your audience is.
We get comments on YouTube, but they're like, I liked your video coming like mine, or...
I'm sorry?
I liked your video coming like mine, or things like that. What do we do about that?
I delete them.
Okay. Okay. That's what I do too.
If they're just promoting their stuff and they know absolutely nothing, I mean, I look at them. I mean, I shouldn't say that just right off the gate. I look at them and say, are they in our industry? Is this valid? Okay, if they're in our industry and we're sharing stuff and they're liking it, I look at them. But if this is a get rich quick multi-level marketing, come like my video thing, all the best swampland in Florida has already been sold. I'm not interested. I delete it. Thank you.